Hey, have you ever noticed politics feels less like governing and more like, I don't know, customer service? Like you call with a real problem and they say, oh, thanks for the feedback. We value your concern. And then nothing happens.
Yeah, except in this case, your customer service rep controls infrastructure, healthcare, and whether or not your kids get educated.
Yeah. So minor stuff.
Today, we're talking about what happens when politics stops being about outcomes and starts being about optics. Because I don't think we're actually being governed anymore. I think we're being managed.
Welcome to the Slog Pod, where your disillusionment is not just valid, it's probably overdue.
I'll be honest. I used to believe this stuff worked. That politics were messy, sure, but people were trying. Somewhere along the way, I stopped believing. Maybe it was watching leaders hold town halls where nothing changed, or corporate mental health initiatives that sounded great, but led to nothing more than PowerPoint slides.
For me, I think it was the phrase, we hear you, or we're listening. You hear that in politics, you hear it from companies, even from people. And all I can think now is, well, that's great, but what are you actually doing about it?
Exactly. In therapy, we call that impression management. Pretending to care because you know you should, not because you actually do.
All right, let's break this down. What do we mean when we say politics has become customer service?
I think leaders prioritizing managing outrage and not actually solving problems, or town halls, press releases, social media clips, all designed to make us feel heard without changing anything. We're constantly surveyed for satisfaction, but nothing substantive happens.
It's almost like Yelp reviews for governance. Did we fix your road? No. But how would you rate our sincerity when we were looking into the problem? Right. It's not proactive. It's not reactive. It's not active at all. It's just surface level fake.
Yeah. And from a mental health lens, this isn't just annoying, it's gaslighting. People internalize chronic invalidation. Over time, you stop believing change is possible. That's learned helplessness. That's trauma.
So the government, or the state in this case, is like a toxic partner. Tells you it's going to be different next time, but deep down, you know.
Yeah, except this toxic partner controls your healthcare.
Which is a horrifying thought.
So we feel citizens are emotionally exhausted, not from governance, but maybe the lack of it. Every speech, every election cycle, every new initiative that goes nowhere, it's chronic stress. And no one's naming that. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I do. No one's actually calling that out. I think a lot of people from the outside looking in are probably calling to each other over the dinner table or at the water cooler at work. But even within the system, there are very few voices that are being honest about what's happened, I think. And you know what? You know who gets burned the most in all of this? It's the people who care the most. They're the ones that feel it deep down. They see the outcomes. They see the effects. And they're the first ones to burn out.
Yeah.
So it's almost like caring feels like you're being set up.
Yeah.
Set up to be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's moral injury. You come to identify and believe in a system. You invest in it. And when it fails repeatedly, you're not just frustrated. You feel betrayed.
Bingo. Betrayal. In the conversations I've had with friends and acquaintances about politics and the current state of politics specifically, and just how people feel like, my God, nothing's happening. They're not doing anything. You hear it'll come in many versions. Oh, both sides are terrible. Oh, there's this and that. Everyone's corrupt. And I think those are all, I don't know that that's necessarily true. One, I don't think everyone is corrupt. That's a big generalization, but I think it's a proxy or it's standing in for the idea that I vote, I'm engaged, I am educating myself on these issues, I have priorities that I want to vote for, and I want to back candidates who are going to prioritize that as well. but then nothing's happening. And so I do feel betrayed. That's what they're saying, I think, with a lot of the vitriol that they're expressing toward the political system. Is
Sure.
they don't feel like the politicians or those who we've elected are holding up their end of the bargain.
Sure. Like that you brought up the overgeneralizing, that sort of thing. I think as we view this from a mental health lens, I'm always trying to grasp to try to see a clearer picture of everything that's happening. And it seems oftentimes we are bunching everyone together. And politicians are different from each other. They do have different outcomes. They're saying different things. And I think many are performative, while some are not. Some are genuine. I believe that. I see that. You got to look at, again, evidence, as we always talk about that. What is the evidence for it? What is actually happening? I don't want to overgeneralize, as you brought up, or we always talk about this false equivalency amongst people. And I hate that that's a response oftentimes. Well, so-and-so did this. Well, on the other side, so-and-so's doing this.
Right.
Well, a lot of times there's not an equal balance or weight to what each of those is doing. And as we're talking about what that performative governing looks like, it is different among representatives. And I think it's important for us to identify the ones that are being authentic, are being genuine, that are getting things done, or that are even smart or understand what's happening. You can listen to politicians and understand that. And I'm thinking, as we sit in Colorado now, there's a certain politician here that clearly this person doesn't understand a lot of what's happening in the world, let alone in her little neck of the woods here in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to really identify and sort through what is performative and what is not.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start voting to support those that are genuine, that are authentic, that are smart, that are truly digging up and trying to fix these problems that our culture has.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing too is I don't want to just make this about, politicians are bad, they're failing us. In many respects, that is true. That is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it absolves us of our responsibility, as you brought up, as voters, as members of the electorate, to really do our homework on these people. Homework and accountability, to me, go hand in hand.
Bingo.
You have to know where that person's coming from, what they're actually doing or not doing. Are they lying? Are they not? How much do they lie?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be looking at all those things on the front end. And then on the back end, there's also a need for accountability. If someone promised something and they're not fulfilling that promise, we should be able to call them out on it. And I think that's where we're going with this episode is right now, it seems like like you're calling it customer service and you're just getting the lip service a lot of times.
I don't just want to blame our representatives. I'm blaming us too.
Right. Yeah.
As you talk about, we can't be lazy in how we look at these people. It's not a D or an R behind their name and we just make a decision based on that, or even one particular topic or whatever they're grandstanding on that day, jumping on board with that. It's to really dig into these things and find out who these people are and if they're actually giving factual evidence or not. You got to want, as you're wearing the shirt, you got to want
it
to really find that out. And maybe I am calling out the citizenry too, to stop being lazy and to look at this. We're not only identifying our own potential distortions, we're identifying the distortions of our representatives and what they're falsely putting out there or responding to.
Yeah. They are us and we are them.
Yeah.
That's literally how the Republic was designed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easy to call out our representatives, but at the same time, I want to say that it's us.
I think so.
How we view things.
I think you're right. And I'm guilty of it just as anyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easier. It's just easier to say, they're all corrupt. Nothing's ever going to happen. So why should I even give a shit? Well, we think you should give a shit because their decisions, the laws they pass or don't pass, the policies they make, these are things that affect our lives, our day-to-day, at every level of government. And as two people who have been pretty, I guess, involved in politics over the years, at least from a spectator's standpoint, something we talk about a lot, I catch us doing it too. And I think it's good that we look within to see how we're contributing to the problem from where we sit. And they say knowledge is power. I think the more you know, the more power you have to do something. So let's talk about solutions. I love to talk about solutions. What is the fix? Or are we just here to poop on everyone's parades?
Well, maybe we are doing that. But here's where I land. Stop confusing performance with action. As we talk about these town halls, as we talk about all these representatives, so many are talking, screaming at the top of their lungs, this big game. And it's either what they're saying is baloney or the action doesn't occur. So, in many times, it's politicians pretending to care. At least it seems. I think we need to call it out. Start there by calling it out. We got to look at the policies that look good but don't do anything, or that there's nothing substantive behind it. Right? We're questioning, as I brought up, a certain congressperson here in Colorado that really probably doesn't have the wherewithal to even be at that level of politics. Doesn't have the basic understanding of many things. So we need to name it. We need to actually say that. And I'm even going to say who's voting for that person, because they are being lazy in doing so. I don't think that they've done their homework whatsoever to find out what's going on.
Maybe they're a little too focused on the letter behind the name.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely what's happening.
Or even the name itself. I mean, we have, in American politics, this is something that's fairly unique, I think, or at least somewhat rare, is you have these dynastic political families that a lot of people just get elected right here in Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a couple of names I could say and people know exactly what I'm talking about just by name alone, name recognition alone.
Yeah.
That is like the laziest way to pick someone is, oh, well, you know, their dad was
so-and-so.
Yeah. So
that they've got power or this and that. Yeah, absolutely. I think then, and obviously that goes back, and it's both families. We talk Kennedys, Bushes, right? It goes on and on. That continues. And you're right. That seems incredibly lazy. Yeah. What do we do with that? That's just very fundamentally something's wrong with that. Isn't there?
Yeah, there is. But I think going back to your point about just letting things be as our default setting, saying, oh, well, I cast my vote, so I got to trust that person that they're going to do what they promised or what's in the best interest of the most people. To me, that's a form of politeness or compliance, maybe is another word I could use for that. Maybe we need to stop being so polite and so compliant and just sitting back and taking, and at least start with being honest. Honest with ourselves about what's happening, honest with our friends, the people we talk to about this stuff, and then honest with the representatives and electeds themselves. It's hard to do. I ran into one of our Congress people at one of my daughter's softball games a number of years ago. And he's a guy I support, former veteran, good guy, seems to be, you know, doing a good job and putting the needs of his constituents first, all of those things. And when I was talking to him, of course, I wanted to avoid getting political with him because we're at a kid's, he's there for his kid, I'm there for my kid. He's off the clock. And I didn't want to be like, hey, what do you think about such and such a policy? But I reflect on that and think, what if he was someone I didn't agree with? How would I have interacted with him then? Would I have maybe gone outside the boundaries of that small talk, polite chit chat and said, hey, I noticed you voted on something that's really going to harm you. And I just wanted you to know there's going to be there's a personal effect on me or my community or whatever. I wonder if I would have had the courage to do it. I probably wouldn't have in the moment, honestly. But I think that's a good question for us to ask is, could we do that?
That sounds reasonable. It sounds more than reasonable.
Because if you call the constituent services hotline at your local congressional or senatorial office, you're going to talk to a staffer who's on their 15th call of the morning. They've got 30 voicemails that came in overnight that they have to respond to. It's almost a guarantee or an inevitability that you're going to get that kind of customer service. Oh, okay, I hear. Yeah, we'll write your concerns down. We'll take those to the leadership. And then you don't get a response. Or if you do, it's canned. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, most people aren't going to run into their local congressperson throughout their day. But if you had the chance, ask yourself, how honest would you be?
I like that question. It seems reasonable to me to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess you're never going to have an audience of one.
Yeah.
Again. So,
and I'm also thinking too, as you talk about, I guess, just being polite and what's putting those people in those positions in the first place to making the decision they are, because I think a lot of them are being drug into their votes. They're being drug into maybe it's just their inaction by their own party. I hate that identity connection, as I just watched happen on the Big Beautiful Bill.
Right. Yeah.
And I just hate people being pulled into that so strongly. I don't think that should occur. I hate that. And I know we're not the only ones saying this probably, but it seems strange to me that we have two political parties, and that's really all that there is. It drives me nuts. And that you have to identify with one or the other. I don't feel that I do. And I'm not offended to say if somebody identified me with the other party, and I don't identify with either party, but I'm not offended either way. If you call me conservative or liberal, I'm not offended. But I think a lot of people are.
Sure.
In one side of that or the other. So it seems like a lot of conservatives, if you'd call them a liberal, they would be offended by that. I don't understand it.
Well, that's because that term has become so
pejorative.
Exact in their minds.
In their minds.
Because liberals are the enemy.
Right.
I mean, that's...
That makes no sense whatsoever. It literally means open-minded, forward thinking. So in that scenario, I don't understand that. And I think that that's where we're pressing to. And we look at them through the mental health lens and our culture. And you talk about walking up to someone at a softball game and either identifying with them or not identifying with them.
Mm-hmm.
I throw that out the window. To me, that doesn't make sense not to identify with this person. It's another human.
Mm-hmm.
And we should have those conversations. This is what we're always talking about, that authenticity, being where that person is. Well, no, we're asking them to be where we are as citizens, as the electorate.
Yeah.
To say, we're asking you. And that seems reasonable to ask that, doesn't it?
God, I wish I could go back and
have that conversation.
I just would have been more honest in the moment. I wouldn't have had that, whatever it wasn't stop me from doing that it wasn't that I was starstruck by any means. It was just that in my mind, again, I was trying to be overly polite. Mm-hmm. He's here to watch his daughter play softball. He probably doesn't want to talk shop with some random dude who's standing next to him. But as I said, he's someone I support. I like most of what he's doing. What if I had just said that? Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing for our district. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
I missed an opportunity.
Yeah. That all seems reasonable. And it's honest. I think that's where we have to start, not being hopeful, but honest. Because it seems like that's what politics stopped being a long time ago, was that genuineness, the honesty, the authenticity is completely gone. It is performative on every sense. I'm thinking of every time I see something on C-SPAN, every time I see a town hall, this is a game that people are playing. And it's ridiculous. I don't know how we've gotten duped by this so greatly. Heck, we've got a president who's a reality TV show guy, for crying out loud. This has gotten so out of control. I don't know where it stops.
Mm-hmm. And his administration is full of people who are pundits or people who were on Fox News or whatever, and they're just performers, not necessarily good at their job, but really good at the image.
Yeah. And I know that it happens on both sides. I know that, and I'm not going to, I think there's a false equivalency to say that that's occurring on both sides at the same level. But I think we're asking people to just identify that, period. I don't care what's behind their name. I don't have a D or an R behind my name. And I hate identifying that way. Going back to that again, I don't want to be known or see people as the other.
Yeah. You want to see the shared humanity first and try to stay there as much as you can. And that can be tough, especially if the ecosystem that you're in, whether it's the news you watch, what you read, what your influences are from conversations you have with people, all of those things can really make us blind to the fact that these are human beings. They're not the enemy. They're not the other side. They're human beings just like you and me. We might disagree. We might have very different ideologies, but at the end of the day, they're human beings. And can we see each other that way first? And that's tough. I know that's tough. But maybe
especially when they're harming you.
Especially when they're harming you, directly or indirect. And the deeper you look, I think the more that stuff is revealed too.
Sure.
But I think maybe that's where healing starts. Is just admitting whatever's happening right now isn't really working. We're all being scammed in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And just starting there.
I like
we can have the honest conversations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, if you're like us and you're tired of the speeches and slogans and the endless "we're listening" emails, you're not cynical. You're probably sane.
And if you're wondering why you feel exhausted after watching the news, that's not burnout from caring too much. That's evidence. Evidence that you're still human. Evidence that you care.
Something to think about. Until then, we'll see you next week. Unless customer service gets back to us, and then I'll be...
They won't.
You're right.
Well, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Ready.
So you go into this like you would a golf swing. No thoughts. Just envision the episode.
I like your metaphor for once.
That's what I'm going to try to do. It's hard though. Okay.
You did not shoot a 90.
I shot a 90 with an asterisk.
There's no asterisk. That's the whole thing about golf.